really important to us at Gamify is configuration. Because we're going to be in multiple verticals in field sales,
right?
The way that you sell a solar deal is not the same as selling pest control, is not the same as selling roofing. It has to be highly configurable. My product needs to be flexible enough that I can do that, but it also has to be steady enough that I can scale.
We listen to our users. They're going to have the best ideas. Collectively, we're going to have a better idea. So we wait for people to say, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And then because of my experience in the field, I'm like, they're asking for A, but what they really want is B. And they actually want this solution. And so that's where I'll kind of take the spin on it. And to this day, I'm on design calls with our design team every single day.
Here they are. So this is the Solar Pulse podcast with Josh and Joe. And we wanted to do an episode with the nicest guys in the solar industry or in the sales industry at all. And we're like, these guys are the top notch. So we got here from Repcard, the CEO, founder, owner, Mr. Brand Mortensen. What's up, Brad?
Yo, what's up, guys? How's it going?
And then, of course, Mr. Nice Guy in the industry himself, Jess Reagan with Gamify. What's up, Jess?
Hey, how's it going, Joe and Josh? Good to see you guys.
And obviously, Jess and Brad know each other for many years. But have you guys met Josh King yet?
In passing, yeah, I think we've been on a couple calls together.
Yeah, maybe SolarCon here and there, maybe.
You got it.
There you go.
Yeah.
With the virtual solar club,
together.
Hell yeah. So we're excited to get you guys on here. You guys are some of the biggest dudes in the industry. Everybody knows who you are. Some of the biggest companies. RepCard, oh my God, man. The guys are just evolving and getting bigger and bigger every year, Brad. But not everybody actually knows who you are. Believe it or not, I introduced you to somebody I thought they knew for years, and he didn't even know. I was like, what? So like, just in case somebody doesn't know who you are out there, Brad, give them a quick little background about how you got to being the founder and owner of RepCard, baby, and what you're doing today.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So, I'd spent 12 years doing door-to-door sales, served a mission for my church and came home and got right into door-to-door sales. And in 2018, we started to build RepCard just as a tool to help my own pest control team sell more pest control. And, you always have the thought as an entrepreneur, like, what if it could evolve and other companies want to use it, and all of those other companies would be your competitors. And so it's like, well, let's just build it for our own team. And so we did that. And then this thing called Door-to-Door Con was coming up, Door-to-Door Con 2. And that's when we kind of had like a product that wasn't so buggy and it was just kind of barely getting done. We had one developer and we were like, let's go to this thing. Let's get a booth and just see what happens. So we went to that and had just a killer booth. We had a ton of people around the booth the whole time. And that was early 2019. And from there, I just kept evolving it, running it alongside my door-to-door ventures. And then in the end of 2021, I decided to go full time. It was like the curiosity of what RepCard could become just kept like staring at me in the face. And then you've got, the solar industry just taking off in 2019, 2020-ish. I'm like, I could just go do this and make killer money doing that. And it was such a hard decision because it's like, I know that's guaranteed because I know I can run good teams and build an army of guys. And then just decided to go all in on RepCard. And from there, that has taken off and we've had a ton of success. So today I feel like we have a pretty dang good product that's well-rounded for any sales team that wants to jump in and use all of our tools to scale their team. And so, we're just actively working and listening to our user base right now to evolve it, continue that journey.
So how many times have we heard, I was going to say, how many times have we heard that's the story where a product has come out and it's been birthed because the founder found an issue with their internal operations and wanted to build a product for it, and then it just became a public thing. I think it's an indication that there's a true problem that needed to be solved as opposed to creating something and then finding the problem later, right?
Yeah.
And I can
a thing called product market fit. And so when you create it from an internal need for your own business, I think you kind of have a jump start to finding product market fit, because at least for you, it was a problem that you're solving versus some techs are built on the backs of developers or just an entrepreneur that just wants to make a bunch of money or make a good tech product. And so if you build it that way, you it doesn't mean it won't work. It just means that you still have to go find product market fit and do a lot of research and figure out what companies are having what issues and try to solve for those. I was just solving my own problems at first. And then after you're in it, 120 grand, you're like, I better start selling this to more people than just my own company. And so then, it evolves and kind of becomes its own brand. But yeah, it was nice to be able to have my own experience as the reason why to start it.
And what you said about coming to that decision about, look, I could jump back into solar and make a killing, or I could put everything I have into this, building this infrastructure, and probably not make any cash for the first few bit. Very few people can relate to that, but I have the exact same experience around 2020, 2021, coming to the US market. It's like, wow, look at all this cash compared to the Australian market. But I've already been through this before. I know what's going to happen. All right, I'm going to take a massive pay cut in the hopes that we're going to build some tech, some infrastructure for the future. So there's not many people, I think, that can make that decision. It's a pretty rough one sometimes when you look at the numbers.
Yeah, it's really lopsided, especially when you've have the skill set to go build a team and do something that's almost guaranteed. And on the flip side, you're going to go negative. You're actually spending money. You're going the opposite direction with the hopes that it turns around. So it's been a wild journey, but it's been extremely fun. And, we're big on our team, our internal team. It's been fun to see it grow, and just big on our people and the people that you're with all day long. The clients are awesome. They're second level for us. First is our people, the people inside our walls, whether they're here or in our other office, and then our clients. So it's been fun to grow the team here and work with just amazing individuals.
Well, speaking of growing teams and team building, we have here Gamify's Jess Reagan, who even before Gamify, he was a monster recruiter, sales trainer, podcaster, the whole 9 yards. But not everybody knows that. So quickly, Jess, just kind of give your background before you got to Gamify, what you were doing and how you got there and what you're doing now, bro.
Yeah, thank you so much. First and foremost, father to 3 beautiful little girls. And the biggest reward and challenge in life, of course, but harder than a business. I've got a 17-year-old.
Me too. I get that.
It's fun. I've been in door-to-door for almost 20 years in, direct sales, and I've sold every product. So, pest control, alarms, solar, dish network. And so I've had an opportunity to really see how everything has been sold along the way. But I really found my passion in recruiting systems. And, as I was most recently with a top 5 solar company, and we built out systems there. We did $100 million in revenue with my recruits my last year. And, a lot of times when you hear the term recruiter, it can be a little polarizing. A lot of times people believe that they are that. And so for me, I feel like, I'm more of a director. I like to make other people look good. And so it's been really fun to build teams and to retain people by having that human element. And I think that this is something that Brad and I share. We met, I think, 2020 or 2021, and introduced me to RepCard. And Brad has been a pioneer in the tech industry for blue collar and for field sales. And so I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. And I think a lot of times when we're playing in the same market, there are there's different companies and competitors who don't play the game the same way. And I respect the hell out of Brad for that. So where we're at today, how I got to Gamify real quick. Like I said, I was with a large corporation. I felt like after 20 years, I had kind of gotten to the point where either I go out and I start and run my own company at this point, or I do something else. I had risen the ranks, and I just love this industry so much, and I really wanted to give back and serve. And I kept feeling like I was getting pigeonholed where I'm building this product and it's really cool, and I was over sales performance and development, and I couldn't share it. That was like really hard for me, is like I would build this really cool thing and then I just couldn't share it with everybody. And so for me, when I met Emily Applegarth, our CEO, I'm now a co-founder here as of a few months ago. which speaks to her, by the way. You know, they've been working on this product for a couple of years, and so to bring me in as a co-founder was just incredible for their team.
Wow, I didn't even know that was possible.
Matt,
that's good to know. I'm gonna... Hey Josh, here, bro.
That's
I
awesome.
don't know. I could become co-founder now.
Well, I don't want to pat myself on the back. We did grow 400% since I've been here.
Woo,
and
that's
so
huge, bro. I can't say the same. That's
thank
great.
you. Thank you. So we've had good growth. But more than anything, you know how in life you just kind of feel called to something. I felt that the team here they were special. I felt like Brad, I felt like we were solving a problem that needed to be solved. Starting with gamification, you know, leading into, you know, canvassing and leaderboards and some other tools. And the biggest thing for me, and again, and I'm going to keep shouting out Brad in this because I feel like in this space, I'm watching him and I'm seeing that innovation is a really, really big part of his roadmap.
Yeah.
And there's been other players who've been out there for a decade, right? And I think that we are really pushing innovation. And that's why it's great to have, you know, it's great to have that in the field where let's keep pushing technology, let's push innovation, let's give our field salespeople better technology. So that's not a quick intro, but there you go.
No, you know what?
Yes, you described what you do as a recruitment tool, but like I don't think of Gamify as a recruitment tool.
No.
I see it as a performance booster. Like, is that how you think?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for clarifying, Josh. So I'm kind of known as that. So when I speak and I've built out recruiting systems for the last 5 years. And I've done close to 300 million in solar through my recruits. Now, as far as Gamify goes, you're absolutely right. This is a sales performance system. This is a field suite. And so we are here to enable sales reps. The best way to describe it is a command center. You know, so if you have your top of funnel where you have canvassing, lead generation, phone calls, all of that, and that needs to be tied into a back-end CRM. So if you have all of this information and you're kind of compiling that into a command center, this is where you're able to, you know, look at that data and have it put together in a way that sales reps actually understand it. You know, that they not necessarily understand it. Obviously they're smart, but that they utilize it, that it's engaging. They want to keep coming back to the platform and they want to go out and work. So yeah, thank you so much for the clarification. I do consult on recruiting, and that's a passion of mine, not related to the platform yet.
I mean, I'm sure that could be used for a recruitment tool. Like we have this, and it's shown to increase revenue by this amount. But you know, for me, the gamification system is pure performance, just boosting and motivation factor, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I started off with announcing that you guys are the nice guys of the industry, and that's why we had you guys on. Obviously, you guys do way more than just being nice, but part of your aura is that. And being nice is also part of relationship building, right? Like people are drawn to you, they want to hang out, they want to talk to you, they want to, and you guys are like Brad, especially, and like gives gifts. And like I've gotten Christmas gifts every year now from Brad. Like it's like he does over and beyond what you normally do. So maybe Brad, like how much of just being the nice guy and building a relationship is part of your success, you think?
I attribute all of it to building relationships. Just going back to the early days of knocking doors and starting with, well, the first company I sold with and becoming friends with the people in your office. And then the second company, just becoming friends with the owner and eventually becoming an owner of that company. Like building relationships, I think, has become the center point of every success I've had, because it takes more than just me. Like RepCard has been the idea of tens of thousands of sales reps. It's not like Brad's, app, and I just put into it what I want. It's pure feedback and listening. And I was talking with one of the guys on our team last night, and we were talking about the golden rule. The golden rule is to treat others how they want to be treated.
Yep.
And I was like, I've always loved the platinum rule. And he's like, what's the platinum rule? And I'm like, that's treating others how they want to be treated. And it takes time to figure out who people are and what they want. You know, if you like your coffee with a lot of sugar and I don't, and I bring you a coffee with no sugar, that's how I want it. And so you're not going to like that. But if I get to know you, know that you like it this way or that way, and then I serve you in the way you want to be served, that's just a higher level. But it takes time to get to know people and to understand who they are, what they like. And that starts with your own team. Whatever business you're in, that should start with your internal team and getting to know them and being able to serve them better. And then it can grow from there to clients. And as demands come, you can't serve every client that way yourself. So you can delegate and let it grow. But the mission is to treat people how they want to be treated. And so anyways, we could talk about relationships for the next hour, but I just feel like relationships have been, all my successes has come from people like Natalie, who shares an office with me. She's been working with me for 9 years, way before RepCard, to the relationship with your spouse and allowing you to go on business trips, and just all of it. Who I am and what I'm able to do is because of others, just as much as it is to do with a skill set or something that I have internally.
Yeah, it's not just about being nice. It's about having that where you could be part of the relationship, help somebody else with something, right? Is that what you do, Jess? Like your goal is to like help others, I've noticed. And then you're not really an asker. I know you just always, hey, well, how can I help? How can I help? Is that how you're building your like new ventures? Is that what kind of your goals are?
So I think there's a nice way to put this, and then there's also kind of a business sense, right? And I think we can talk to both. I see myself as a kind person, maybe more than nice. I think a kind person is honest, right? Like I think sometimes if you're nice, you might be lying to somebody. And so I don't want to see myself as a liar. So
exactly, that's
yeah,
expectations, right?
And I know that's exactly what you mean. Yeah, like I want to be seen as somebody who tells the truth. And so if I have friends or relationships, I want people to trust that I'm going to give them my honest opinion and not withhold that. And I think that comes with a certain energy. And you guys have probably seen the speech. It might have been Gary Brecka or somebody that did. They did scientific research on energy, and where you literally have the highest frequency is authenticity. And so I think if we are out talking to potential customers, or customers, or people within our org, like Brad said, and we're fully authentic and we're not afraid to be that energy is so consumable. People they really care about that. And on the business side, something that you mentioned is often just how can we create value? Like there are asks that happen. Like, of course, like if we're running a business and we need revenue, and in that respect, like Brad and I are responsible for that. We're responsible for running a healthy business. So at some point we have to ask for revenue. And so for me, it's like, what amount of value can I give? We call it unreasonable hospitality. So that's a term that we use here. If we have unreasonable hospitality and we increase the level of customer service and care and value to the point where it's almost ridiculous, like where it's almost uncomfortable. It's like, wow, that like, what are they trying to, what are they trying to get out of this? So it's give a certain amount of value. And I do ask though, I think there are times when you have a certain amount of human capital where you've made that investment, and then I can go back to you and I can say, hey, is it okay if I can ask this of you?
Brad, I love the real quick. I love the nice versus kind comparison, because it's true. And there is a big difference. They sound like the same or like they're synonyms, but I love that. I'd love to dig into that at some point.
Well, it's kind of like if you look at Europeans versus us, I think, or even East Coasters, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, like they're not very nice. And it's like, well, that's true. That's because they're kind, like they're actually being real. And if we
did a terrible parking job or whatever it is, like, or, maybe they could, there's this weird dynamic between those two. I love the life.
If we let go of our triggers, like if we let go of our trauma and triggers and we just listen to what somebody's saying, in general, it's coming from a good place. They're just being real. So I think
it's actions over words for me a lot of the time. Like, I was born in Canada but grew up in Australia, and if an Australian doesn't like you, they will bloody tell you in front of them. But Canadians are so, you know, I think you guys are all Americans here, right? What's the stereotype about Canadians? They're so nice. It's complete BS. It's complete BS. Canadians know that they're really nice to you. You go up to my dad always used to make fun of, he's born in the UK, and we'd go for grocery shopping, and the cashier would be like, "Oh, how are you doing today?" Now he knows, he doesn't give a rat's ass. She's just saying it because it's social. So he would look at her and say, "Absolutely bloody horrible." And he just liked to see them squirm because they don't really care. They're just doing it for social. But, you know, like you said, the European culture, the Brits especially, or yeah, you're right, East Coast, it's actions over words. If they like you, they'll tell you. If they don't, they don't. And they actually, you know, if they do like you, they'll actually put some action into it. Yeah.
And it's reversed too. Like, you don't want people just being nice to you, or you want the same kindness. Like Jess is a perfect example. I messaged Jess that he killed it on stage at Door to Door Con, and his first thing was like, "Well, tell me what I did bad." Like, that was the exact message to me. I was like, you know, this is my thoughts, but like, people don't do that normally, you know?
Yeah. No, it takes humility to seek out the negativity and the what do you call it? Like, just like the holes, you know, the areas that you can grow. So, yeah.
Anyways, well, unless you frame internally that the failure is actually the biggest opportunity, because I'm not very humble, but I know that I can learn from failure. So that's a good trick, though. And I'm also not good at taking compliments. So that's actually a great trick. Dude, that was so cool. Oh, really? Thanks. What could I have done better? Yeah. Immediately turn it back. That's a hack. I'm going to use that. It's pretty good.
That's hard for me too, Josh. And that's partially probably why I do it, is it's a deflection, right? Of like, if it's about the other person, and if it's about them and their achievements, and then you don't always have to go inward, and you know, so part of it is kindness, part of it's probably a deflection.
But you also give me the ability to be real, because sometimes it's hard to tell people what you really think, because you don't know how they're going to take it. But you're saying, no, I want to hear it. So that gives me the ability to give you something, even though I may not even said it. Right.
Yeah. Have you guys, I'm trying to remember if it was Armchair Expert, I think is what it was. It's a great podcast. If you don't listen already, it's Dax Shepard. But he was talking about, you know, when you're getting into an argument or a debate with somebody, he uses the term with his wife, do you want to dance? So in other words, like, if they have a disagreement, it's like, do you want to dance on this? Like, do you want to have, you know, for me, it's oftentimes religion, where if somebody's bringing religion up and I have certain thoughts or feelings on that, it's kind of like, well, do you want to dance? Like, do you want to debate this? Because I want to be respectful of you and your feelings, and you know, so if you want to, then I'm willing to debate. If not, cool, let's just keep it nice and and friendly.
Not a lot of people can do that, though, especially in North America. They gotta go for it, right? Very few people who say, "Oh, let's just agree on our similarities and have a good time." Especially these days, and how polarizing everything is. It's so dead. They want to know, what are your political beliefs? What are your religious beliefs? Oh, you're not part of my tribe. Get the hell out of here. It's rough out there.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a whole other thing, Josh, is a gradient, right? Where a lot of times people are thinking in black and white, and that's even, I think that's a personal thing where some people just think that way, and that's okay. I always tend to think of like a spectrum, right? Where it's like everything is on a spectrum. I know sometimes we'll use that word with autism, right? Which it's like there is a spectrum in all things. So when it comes to having a conversation or a debate, or, you know, or even how a company's ran, it's like, it's not just black and white. People are not that way. Like, if we're talking about politics, if I agree with, you know, maybe more socially liberal policies, but I agree with more fiscally conservative policies, what does that make me? You know? So it's interesting.
I like to think of it as a circle, and you can't plot on a second or a second two-dimensional line where you are. Right or left doesn't matter anymore. It's a circle, and everyone's around the circle, and maybe there's some correlations, but like, even the terminology right and left that we've been imbued with doesn't make sense when we're talking about three and fourth dimensional world, but we're using a second dimensional analogy to describe something very important, right? Doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. That's cool.
Everybody's somewhere in the middle, right? Like everybody's somewhere in the middle somewhere, right? That's too much when you're like, oh, you're one thing and now describes your whole opinion on every subject. That's pretty hard to do, right?
Yeah. That's
technically it would be a sphere. Sorry, a circle would still be two-dimensional. A sphere would be a third-dimensional. Okay, just got to correct myself there.
Yeah, dude, I was gonna say it, but I just was waiting to see if you'd catch it.
I knew it, Brad. I could see it.
See, being nice, Brad. No, I'm just joking.
A little turn into this. I love this conversation, but I'm speaking with guys, that are part of software platforms and tech platforms in solar. So I always this is my favorite part of the whole industry. Brad, are you a technical founder?
No, not at all.
Okay, you're on the other side, so you probably have the vision as opposed to the technical side.
Yeah, and design.
I've been in. I think did you use the term blue collar tech? Was that the term that you used, or Brad?
Yeah,
I love that term. I guess technically, then I've been in blue collar tech development in solar specifically, if that's blue collar tech for since 2015, I guess.
Wow.
Brad, if you have the vision here, I'd love your thoughts on this thing that I've just been interacting with. I'm sure you've interacted with for years. Blue collar tech, it's always behind. Why? And why is it behind? And if it's so behind, is that where the opportunity is? Is it just because it's blue collar, so people aren't technically savvy? They prefer their legacy ways. Have you seen that pattern?
When you say blue collar and you think solar, and then you think blue collar and you think roofing, man, it's like I feel like it's totally opposite ends of the spectrum or the sphere, whatever we want to call it. But they, blue like the roofing industry, I feel like is way behind solar. Like a solar sales rep is a way more of a techie individual, and then roofing, generally speaking, for whatever it is, maybe it's just been around longer. It's kind of behind. But I think that there's opportunity anywhere you can go and create a better process or a better way to do something in any industry. And so with what we're building, or with what Gamify's built, or Sales Rabbit, or any of these companies, they're taken an archaic way of doing something and created a way to do it more effectively, or quicker, faster, more simple. And then that allows other resources to be spent on other things. And so it allows for companies to then have data faster, and they can understand their business more because things are done digitally versus on paper contracts or whatever the case may be. So I don't know if that answered the question exactly, but
I mean, I certainly see a pattern. I've done a few firsts in solar, like, running ads on Facebook. We started that in 2017 for solar, which was unheard of. Selling remotely. What other industry is not selling remotely by now? And solar is just starting to jump into it. Mm-hmm. So I've seen this so long, and it's always sort of annoyed me. But at the same time, it's like, if you jump in there and say, well, look at every other industry, the solar industry, or maybe roofing is even 10x this, you get immediate pushback. When we started wanting to sell remotely and do things more virtually in 2015, all the owners of the companies I was working for gave me pushback. Just stick to what we know, man. Stick to all this. Don't even worry about that. It's always been that struggle. However, solar, I've been in it for 10 years. I haven't really dipped out. So maybe that's just a general thing, and I'm applying it to other stuff. I don't know. I was wondering if you see that in other industries, or even more so in solar, but maybe not.
I think to this point too, I think it's all about adoption, right? Like it's an adoption rate, and sometimes adoption slows down when the industry is sometimes more rural, right? Like you're starting in this place where they might even have satellite or broadband internet, and now they're getting brought fiber optic cables, and and they're not as quick to adopt often because the technology wasn't even there to adopt to adopt on. And so I think part of it is that. I think part of it's the speed of adoption and the availability of the technology. And then I also would agree, I don't think it's an obvious category. I don't think it's, when you look at SaaS sales, the types of companies that Brad and I are competing with, Outreach, Apollo, like some of these companies that are doing, they have these massive investors, that come in and speed them up, and it's not as obvious. I think that's the problem, right? Is that it is a blue ocean, and it is something that we're tackling, and we do see it speeding up. I think conferences have helped immensely with that. If you look at SolarCon and what they've done in just the last 3 years to increase the speed of adoption, RoofCon, some of those others that have gotten significantly better and impacted, again, because of innovators like Joe and Jake Hess. So I think the technology is catching up because of availability. And then, going and selling a roof with a paper contract is not that difficult. So then it's like, okay, if it's not that hard to do that, the technology has to be so good that it's easy to use and easy to adopt. If you get into an environment where it feels like a CRM and it's supposed to be a sales tool, who's going to use it, right? Like they're going to jump in. We know sales reps. They're going to jump in for a day or two. They're going to dump it. They're going to say it sucked. And then they're probably never going to give it another shot. And so we've got to get it. We have a really, really surprisingly like high, a low tolerance industry, right?
Yeah.
Pretty low tolerance. So we got to get it right.
I think one major factor there is, I mean, Jess, you said you hit the doors before. That's where you came up doing some sales.
I led teams for almost 15 years. Yeah.
I think, and I don't know how much say you have in the product at Gamify. I'm sure you have some sort of input there, but I think people like you and I sold solar again for years and years. When we're on the platform side and building this infrastructure, we have a massive leg up compared to the people that you said, guys come in, they get a bunch of funding and they just hire 1 million developers. What I usually see is those developers and those founders have not really been involved in the process that their users are actually going through. And so this is in solar like crazy right now. It annoys me to hell. But when I'm building software for solar, I know the exact process, the button that the sales rep wants to click, where it should be, and also what's the most effective way. Whereas, in the industry, just because the status quo of one workflow is one way, maybe I know a better way. And so there's almost like do I build the interface? Do I build the software such that it's going to benefit the user for the performance, or do I build it just what they're used to? And it's like it's a difficult question to ask, but certainly I think if you have the experience of the actual user, as opposed to a founder that sees a blue ocean and says, oh, I'm going to get some funding and pour a bunch of money into it. I have no idea what the user's going through, but I'm going to see if I can make something that looks cool. That just gets annoying.
That's like a perfect question. Go ahead, Jess.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, so number one, I love product. I think product marketing, that's one of my passions here. And so I'm definitely involved in that. With the caveat, in the same way that I would listen to a new rookie salesman if he dropped a great line, I'm also going to listen to the customer. What's really important to us at Gamify is configuration. Right? Like we know that because we're going to be in multiple verticals in field sales,
right?
The way that you sell a solar deal is not the same as selling pest control, is not the same as selling roofing. And so it has to be highly configurable. You have to be able to come in and say, like you said, Josh, like if you came to me and you said, hey, I'm an expert at this and I need you to build it this way or configure it this way, my product needs to be flexible enough that I can do that, but it also has to be steady enough that I can scale. And so that is the fine line that we have to run, is how do we do what the customer needs while still being able to scale?
Yeah. One really good example of that is, so we see it a lot more on the further down the sales process in software, but really traditional one. Dispositions of an outcome. Okay. Now, I've been in this game for so damn long. I know there's a very small amount of dispositions that actually matter. Whereas you give a sales rep a CRM that's completely configurable, they will make 50. And and the differences don't even do anything different. And so what I actually found in the early days of like really large scale dialing software is if you give a sales rep the ability to completely configure everything, no limits whatsoever, they will start creating dispositions that are justifications for why they weren't able to close the deal. And then those dispositions won't be calculated properly. And then the company won't be able to get proper metrics for their performance because sales reps are actually just lying to themselves, clicking these random dispositions. So, you know, whenever I help people with the dialer software, our dialer software, we have like 4 or 5 dispositions because that's what if it's not one, it's the other. But it's such an interesting thing. It's like, how do you make it configurable so that it's easy to work with? But at the same time, you know, am I hurting them by enabling them to do whatever they want? It's a question that's difficult to answer.
Well, think of it this way: like if we're getting invited to a black tie event, right? It's like you have a pretty good idea of what that means. Like there's kind of like there's this format that you need to follow, and so I think in these different verticals, we kind of have like a best practices or the best ideas of what works best. And then maybe this person wants to wear a bow tie, maybe this person wants to wear a tie, maybe this person's going to wear Jordans. So you have to have it to where, like you said, foundationally, we should know what works best. And then let's let them spice it up a little bit.
What's going on, guys? Just a quick break before we get back into the pod to tell you a bit about what we got going on for you, some resources for you. So first things first, Virtual Solar Club, the home of all things remote solar sales, the largest community of remote solar sales professionals in the universe. We got training for you. We got support. We got networking, community, lead sources, software, installation, infrastructure. We're a big group of people that sell solar remotely around the world. If you want to transition or to start selling solar remotely, get software, get all the resources you need to do so, you can use code SOLARPULSE on registration and get a bunch of discounts for you. We're here for you. We're ready to support you. Let's sell some solar remotely. What do you say? Joe, you got anything for us?
Oh yeah, SolarCon is right around the corner, and this is going to be our 3rd year, and we're looking at the most epic event ever, and it's going to be at the same place, same time, April 18th, 19th, and 20th in Salt Lake City at the Soul Palace Convention Center, and we're going to have Gary V headlining. We got Andy Elliott, Jeremy Miner, David Meltzer, and over 150 speakers and trainers training all aspects of the solar industry. And then the highlight of the event every year is our expo floor, where we're going to have the piano player to the presidents, lounges, activities, bars, and the best conversations you've ever had at a conference is with the feedback we get from everybody. So if you guys haven't signed up yet, get your tickets now. We have an extra discount for you guys, an extra 10% on top of the website has. Just go to attendsolarcon.com/virtual solar. Again, that's attendsolarcon.com/virtual solar, and you will get the biggest discount anybody has to offer. So if you guys don't know, now you know. Let's get back to the podcast. I mean, Brad has been doing this for years with RepCard. I mean, it started as a networking app and has evolved to so much more now. Brad, can you hit on what RepCard started at, and how do you know when to evolve, right? Or build that other part of RepCard, and how do you kind of balance that towards what you're doing now?
Yeah, it's a great question. When we started, I was solving the issue of having just a digital business card with an automated follow-up campaign so that you could knock a door, engage with the homeowner, and door-to-door, percentage-wise, 90+% of the time, you're not going to get, 90% of the time plus, you're going to get rejected. It's the nature of the business. And 100% of the time, you are going to find people at a random time in their day because none of them were expecting to talk to you. So the odds of you having a good conversation are low, and that's why it pays so well. But you have this person that didn't know you were coming. You try to do this great intro and engage them. And then the odds of you getting all the way through the end of your transaction or your sale, depending on your product, are not that great as far as to do a one-touch close percentage wise. So it was like, how do we solve the problem if I have a team of 50 pest control sales guys, they're all talking to 100 people a day? That's 5,000 contacts. There's got to be more sales to be had than just the 123 deals we got. We talked to 5,000 people and got there's got to be a way for us to recapture some of that business. And then you multiply that and you're like, dang, this could be valuable. And so it started out as that. And then we just listen, man. We listen to our users. They're going to have the best ideas. Collectively, we're going to have a better idea. So we wait for people to say, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And we're like, that's kind of all the same thing. That's what we should go build next. And then because of my experience in the field, like Josh has been saying, like, I'm like, they're asking for A, but what they really want is B. Because of my tech background now, I can say, like, you're saying you want A, but we need to tweak and change it and position this button and tee this up at this time. And they actually want this solution. And so that's where I'll kind of take the spin on it. And to this day, I'm on design calls with our design team every single day.
Wow.
Whether it's 30 minutes or 3 hours, I'm on those calls guiding where every button is located and how everything shows up so that we can have that experience from the field and me listening still to our user base through feedback loops and things like that to let my brain kind of diagnose, like, what do they actually need? What are they really experiencing? And then that gets tied into the buttons of where they're placed. And then it gets kicked off to the product team for QA and testing and building it out. And at that point I can let it kind of do its thing. But so it started out as the card with the follow-up, and then people asked for a canvassing tool. We fought that for about 2.5 years. Like, no, there's already big players in the space. We just want to be an add-on tool. We're just RepCard. We're just this. And then finally I had some big clients that were like, if you build it, we'll subscribe. Like, you build it and it was like, all right, we'll go for it. And so again, using my experience, we went and built it. And then they're like, now we need a leaderboard. And then they're like, hey, now we need a calendar tool. Now we need chat. Now we need competition. And so what we've built now, I feel like, is an all-in-one tool for a sales company to onboard, and they can literally run their whole sales side of their business through the platform. But what to do next is our roadmap right now. What to do next is all based on the need of our clients. So it's just as much their business as mine.
When we were prepping for this pod today, I was diving into both you guys' platforms. I started seeing a lot of the like the turf management features and the gamification and leaderboard stuff. And I told Joe, I'm like, damn, I wish I had this when I was running door-to-door teams back in the day. Like, Brad, you're talking about, we knocked 1,000 doors, but only got, man, back in the day, I don't know, you guys both probably remember this. Pen and paper, baby. The door knockers write down the houses, and then you got stacks of paper. And then in the morning, you bring the team leaders in. They print out a ton of maps and the highlighters, and they have to manage where they're like it's. You remember that? Good old days.
I remember. I won an iPad at my first. I did one summer of pest control, and then I got right into satellite TV sales, and so that was in 2010. So this is like September, October of 2010. I finally had my 10th sale in 1 week, and that earned me an iPad. So that next day or whatever, I get my iPad 1, I've got it. I'm all fired up. I go out to the doors. I knock a door. We didn't have Sales Rabbit, none of that. You were just kind of winging it. We were taking orders in the Notes app, like putting socials and credit card info in the notes, copying that, sending it in an email to the office. Like, that was our flow. So I get the iPad, I knock a few doors, and I hated it. I got about 6 doors down the street, and I went back to my 94 Geo Prism, baby. And I put that iPad in the back seat. It was worth more than the car. And I grabbed my binder and I went back to the doors, and I couldn't do the whole iPad thing. I was like, dude, I'm out. Like Jess said earlier, like, the tolerance is like 0. It's like, screw this. I'm losing deals. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. I can't buy that rental property that this guy said I needed to buy. Like, where's my binder at? So I went back to the binder, and then the next day I tried it again. And it took me like a week to like feel comfortable using an iPad at the doors. And you look now at what that iPad is, just a segue into these apps like Gamify and RepCard that let you do freaking everything and be notified of a million things and what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And it's like crazy how it's transitioned from the, door to door, the industry from 10 years ago. I guess that was a little bit more than 10 years ago when iPads started being used, but it's gone from binders and paper and, maps with highlighters to full gamification inside of your platform. It's like, holy cow. It's been a fun ride. It's been a fun time to be a part of this industry.
Man, if you're using iPads more than 10 years ago, you're way ahead of us. In Australia, we have sales contracts from every single finance provider. We write it out, then we phone a phone number with the customer in front of us. We stay on the line. They manually run it. They give us an account number and tell if it's approved or not. Then we were one of the first to develop into the finance providers' APIs in Australia. And when I started building a system for my guys to do it on their iPad or computer, they freaked out. They swore that the approval ratings were lower. They were losing deals. It was a nightmare trying to get them to move over to a virtual process. It was wild. And they wanted to stick to writing down this massive contract in front of the customer and making a phone call. Yeah, that's almost like what I was saying before, right? That pushback. Change.
What's also come of this is like fraud or reps being able to get by with other things. Doing that phone call is super valuable. Jess and I are part of the RSA, and you guys maybe as well, the Residential Solar Association, and we're trying to solve for welcome calls or verification calls and stuff right now because it creates so much accountability for the sales rep to present the information in the right way, and then have a third party kind of validate that amongst you and the homeowner. And so I don't know, it's interesting to think about that the archaic way may have been more honest. I don't know if that's the word, and now all this technology has created a way for guys to, and now we're trying to solve for the problems that we already had a solution for 10 years ago with the verification call, because there was literally no other way to get the info to the office in somewhat of a real-time fashion besides calling in.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they found out loopholes. I'm generally a believer that people find out loopholes with everything. And I do think software can limit that. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different examples of that, right? Where you just want to stick to the old ways. And sometimes they are better. Sometimes the software maybe messes it up for a bit until it actually catches up, and then it overcomes. Yeah. It's like, oh, this is actually way easier. But when it's buggy and glitchy, trying to get someone to be an early adopter of it, it's not too easy.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like being an early adopter of Gamify right now. So Brad was talking about how now he's doing gamification, right? But Gamify started as gamification, but now you guys are competitors too. Just kind of let us know more about Gamify, just because I can understand. And does a lot of companies, have already their leaderboards and competitions? And is this something that they need an app for, or something they could just keep doing themselves?
Yeah, generally, what leaderboards look like is they look like whiteboards. They look like Excel spreadsheets. They look like somebody who doesn't know how to pull a CRM report. They look like a lot of different things, but they're definitely not accurate. They're not generally live, and then they don't generally aggregate all the data. So they're not usually showing the whole picture. So if you want to see a true leaderboard, you obviously need the whole story from start to finish. What happened when I knocked that door, all the way through to the customer actually becoming a customer, and then even onwards into retention, going into recruiting and stuff like that. So people definitely do need that, and they need it done in a way that's better than we can often do it on our own. Like I mentioned before, integrations that's our superpower at Gamify. Having games that are inaccurate is worse than having games at all. And so you have to make sure that the integrations are smooth and clean. You have to make sure that the numbers add up. There's always going to be a human element, right? But we did start with gamification. One of our founders one of the founders built the sneakers app for Nike. He was a senior architect at Amazon, has done some really cool stuff in his career, Fortune 100 consultant. And on the flip side, another one was running competitions in alarm cells in an inside sales environment, and writing competitions up on a whiteboard. And she had this idea, well, this obviously isn't working very well, and there isn't a great application specifically for this type of a sale. And so I should call up the smartest person that I know and see what they think. So she called up our other founder and said, hey, here's this problem that we have. And he said, well, funny enough, I'm actually building that right now. And they had never talked about it. He had started building a gamification for life. So it was a tool for, somebody who wanted to get better at certain areas of their life. Maybe they wanted to do 75 hard and drink a gallon of water or whatever.
Yep.
See, yep,
Exactly. The whoop.
The whoop.
Yeah,
And anyway, so it was born out of that. And when I started to come into the picture, I think for me it was seeing the whole picture. It was seeing like gamification's really cool. I didn't believe, like, from a business standpoint, and I'll just speak to this again. From a business standpoint, I didn't understand why I would give away that business to someone else when we could build it. It's like, why would I? And not only that, but I also, when it comes back to innovation, there's certain tools that have had an opportunity to innovate for a lot of years and haven't. And so it's like, well, that if that opportunity has been there, it's not been taken, why don't we take it? And so gamification, and Gamify in the namesake, it seems like it's just gamification, but we're a full sales performance suite. And, so we do have a social feed and messaging. We do have leaderboards. We do have a full prize locker. I think the sexiest part of our app is our prize locker and the ability to go and spend money or currency on those prizes. It's integrated with fulfillment partners, so you can actually, have your prizes fulfilled for you. So yeah, it's kind of the whole, we want to give you the whole picture. And then canvassing, like Brad said, they were fighting that idea. And then I was very adamant that was important to me. And so canvassing is, we've found that's the make or break tool on the platform today. If you don't have a good canvassing app, it's not going to go well.
In terms of the gamification, I just feel it's so much more powerful than even any of us know. Like, we've all had the old school sales jobs, the whiteboard, you get up on the whiteboard, put the thing, and you ring a bell in the office, whatever. And that's great. And what I have found, I've said this a bunch on the podcast, I'm not motivated by money, but man, you put a competition in front of me. Like, so Whoop, for example, this bracelet, it monitors stress, sleep. I honestly, I'm not super healthy. I should be focused more on that. That's not why I got this. I got this because all my buddies were in this community and they were messaging and sharing their metrics, and they're making fun of me. They're like, "Oh, Josh, you probably don't get any sleep. You're probably a loser." I only ordered this thing so I could show them that my metrics weren't that bad. They're still pretty horrible, but I beat them sometimes. I mean, like, and it's motivating me to, like, I should get more sleep. I should maybe I should go for a run today and get my strain up in a healthy level. For me, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, I'm not super obsessed over personal health, but the gamification of it, the competition of it just drives me forward. You used a very specific word, Jess, when you're speaking about Gamify. You said something like the sexiest part of Gamify. I've said this for years. No one has made solar sales, or let's say blue collar sales, sexy. I think gamification, you guys have leaderboards, you have the prize stuff, like all of that. I think that's one of the major keys there. Because there's a percentage of people that you can promise, commissions and all that. But man, I would work for free if I was just at the top of that bloody leaderboard, right? I think that's so cool. And I don't even think we're close to what gamification is going to be soon, even in, the boring blue collar sales jobs.
I agree. Right. And I think, oh, sorry, go ahead, Brad, please.
No, go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
Yeah. We might be saying this. I was going to say, I can't give away all my secrets because Brad's on the call, but I do agree. And he's probably thinking the same thing. I do agree that where this is headed is really exciting. And I think the key word for me is engagement. If you guys, have you ever seen the movie Super Pumped? It's the Uber story.
Yes. Yeah.
So he says, when he's talking to one of the investors, he says, if they take 2 rides with us, they're a rider for life.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that always sticks with me. It's like, okay, what kind of engagement is that somebody could hop in there 2 times and then be a rider for life, right? So that's my philosophy here, is what am I building that creates engagement and gets users to come in and enjoy the experience so much that it doesn't feel like work. You know, like if I'm out on the doors, or if I'm in a kitchen selling soap, or if I, you know, anything to do with outside sales, and I feel like me hopping into Gamify means that I get points and I get levels and I get to complete missions, it becomes more than just a job, right? And so that's really exciting for me, is like, how do we increase engagement?
Well, I've been taking inspiration from video games a lot recently for our stuff. I won't give any secrets away either, but there's a lot we can learn from stuff that we thought was just, you know, that's a video game. There's
Absolutely.
so much we can pull from that and put into boring business platforms and software.
Well, SolarCon is definitely utilizing Gamify and RepCard for that fact. And actually, Gamify's second year with doing the League of Influencers competition. And last year was a runaway success, and I'm excited about it this year. But I wanted to talk about networking events. Speaking of SolarCon, a lot of what you guys built is from networking events, right? Like meeting new people, starting new relationships, finding new products, adding something else in. Can you go speak to the fact, Brad, of like, you know, you talked about Door Con, you know, 2 and go from there. How much has networking events really impacted your career?
Well, going back to the beginning of this conversation about relationships, I mean, it's been massive. As far as what RepCard does on the tech side at events, that's kind of been you know, crazy to think that we're doing that as well with that channel of the business. But as far as networking in general, you know, when I went to that first Door Con 2, you know, I had no idea who Sam Taggart was. I had seen a few of his videos and this and that. I got to know his sister, who was kind of the admin at the time, showed up. And then I met this guy, Sterling Clark, who was one of our users that I had never met. He introduced me to this guy named Danny Pessy. And, you know, it's like all these people that I've met, meeting you, Jake, Jess, like all of you guys. It's like, it's crazy. And it's funny too, because at that time, RepCard was, you know, at its infancy. It was nothing, or it was being born, or whatever you want to say. But people would introduce me as like, here's Brad, the founder of RepCard. You know, I would just be like, hey, nice to meet you, and introduce and you know, meet them. But like in my head, I'm like laughing. I'm like, it's the founder of nothing, but yet it's something that's big to me. But like they just introduced, and so I was able to leverage that, not in a bad way. Just I wouldn't correct them. They're like, dude, he's the CEO and founder, and I'm like thinking of my team. I'm like, there's 3 of us, but you know, hey, that is true. I'm not lying. So the networking allowed my network to grow, and just like I said earlier, just treating people how they want to be treated, you know, be kind, be nice, you know, serve them. And so networking has been hugely a part of our growth and success. And RepCard has done almost no marketing up until about 3 or 4 months ago. We started to do, I think, some Facebook ads, and we're doing a little bit more on social media, but we've grown organically since the beginning. Outside of events, as we got into events to do like the tech side of it, obviously we're going to those events, and so you meet people, and you can call that a form of marketing, having a booth there, and that could be, you know, one pillar of your marketing efforts. But that was really the only thing, was just getting out and shaking more hands, going to events. Yeah. So that was the one marketing thing that we did, and now we're at a point where we're gonna ramp it up. But it's been cool to network and meet people. I'm kind of like I'd like to say an extrovert, but I'm really more of an introvert. Like if I'm ever in a big room and there's a you know, like the solar influencer gala you guys did, which was awesome, by the way, very well put together, and it was a good time. I was over in the corner talking to a few of my buddies. Like, I don't know, I kind of shut down. I don't know. I feel I turn into an introvert, even though I can go knock 1,000 doors and love it. When I get around like my peers and my friends, sometimes I just kind of like sit back. So anyways,
I think that speaks to your care, Brad, because I think what I've noticed is, because you're a caring person, a lot of times you want something more than a superficial conversation, you know, and my wife's the same way. She does not like superficial combos. Joe knows that, you know, Kirsten.
Kirsten.
And
Speaking at
She's, but
SolarCon.
yeah, and she's speaking at SolarCon, and
Woo!
that's very exciting and scary for her.
Excited
But
for her.
I wanted to speak to that too. You know, I think you learn, and we've probably both learned, or all of us have learned this. You have to invite yourself to the party, and it's very uncomfortable. Like I had a really hard time with that up until about 3 years ago, where I saw all these networking events, I saw people speaking, I saw people getting on stage, and you know, and doing all that, and I'm just like, how do they do that? Like, how do they get these opportunities? Why are they on stage? Why, you know, and not because they're bad, but just how did they get there? And I just started to realize you have to invite yourself to the party. And the way that you get to invite yourself is what we talked about earlier, Joe, is like, what is the value that I can provide so that I can then ask to be invited? And if you can network in that way where, you know, if something's coming up and you can get a hold of the CEO or the person running it and just, hey, how can I help? How can I add value? How can I, do you need to find other vendors? Do you need to find speakers? Do you have the person who's doing your, you know, your PA and your stage development? And then all of a sudden it's like, then you have a spot on a panel, right? And then the next year you get to speak. And so just invite yourself to the party.
Dude, I absolutely love that, because I've thought the same thing for a long time. I thought they were like, people were calling them and begging them to speak and paying for their flights and everything to get there. And then, you know, I've seen kind of the backstage at some of these things and different conversations. And I'm like, I think there's a different game being played here. It's not so much of like you're begging someone to come speak on your stage. It's more like they're begging to get on your stage. Maybe not begging, but they're positioning themselves to, and so I'm like, oh, like you can't wait for your turn. And honestly, I'm scared like crapless to get on stage. So it's another, I don't know. Jess has been, or Jake has been asking me like, dude, you're going to speak on the main stage this year. And I'm like, I'll arm wrestle you for it, dude. I don't know. Yeah. I love what you said, Jess. You got to invite yourself to the party. And sometimes even if it's scary, you still got to get there. So.
Well, speaking of,
if you ever see me in a crowd at one of those things, go for it. I was going to say, if you ever see me at one of those events like the LOI thing, Brad, just pull me over. Let's talk tech. I'll talk tech with you all day long, man.
Yeah. And Jess is right. Like when I see someone at Walmart, I love me a Walmart run about 10:30 at night. My wife needs something. I'm like, I'll go. It's just hilarious to go see. And it's like kind of peaceful. Like there's no one calling me. Not that I don't want people to call me during the day. It's just like, there's nothing else going on. I'm just strolling Walmart and grabbing whatever she needs. But, shoot, you said something before if I see someone like from high school, right, that I haven't seen in 10 years, dude, like, unless it's like a homie and it's just someone I like kind of rub shoulders with, had a class with, I'm like going the other way. Like, I don't want to go ask them how many kids they have and have this conversation that's just like the back and forth of like 7 questions. And then it's like, cool, man. Well, see you in 7 years. Like, it's not that I don't care about them or want the best for them or anything. I feel like they don't really care about what's going on in my world. And I don't necessarily like not care. It's just kind of this like,
what's your sign, Brad? Are you a Cancer? What's your sign?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to come off like it's like we're measuring who has more kids or who has a better job, or like I don't want them to view like this. Just recently happened the other day, and I just walked away. I'm like, I hope that he didn't think like anything, and maybe I shouldn't care, but I was just like, I just try to be genuine and honest. But we asked like the 7 questions of like, where do you live and how many kids do you have and what do you do now? And it's like there's so much more to them and so much more to me that we could dive into. But for the 3 minutes we have, like I'd rather not go around and meet everyone for 3 minutes. I'd rather meet 1 or 2 people and actually start a new relationship and find ways to give and serve each other than just to go around and say hi to everyone and try to get like my brand out there. I don't know.
That's a note to everybody at SolarCon. When you see Brad, make sure it's a good conversation. Nothing that is
got to be over 7 minutes. If you don't 7 minutes plus, don't say hi to me.
But both Brad and both Brad and Jess are going to be speaking at SolarCon. Really excited, pumped that you guys are going to be there. Gamify is going to have a stage there named after them. Gamify stage is going to be popping. And then RepCard and Virtual Solar Cup are going to be by the grand piano on the center floor. So we're going to be neighbors. But before we wrap this thing up, how can people reach out to you guys? They want to connect, work with Gamify? Jess, what's the best way, man?
So they can reach me personally on Instagram. So Jess Reagan Official. They can go to gogamify.com. So if you find us on the App Store, it's also Go Gamify. And yeah, look us up on Instagram, on our website, DM me, shoot us over a message. And we generally like to show you a nice demo, right? So that's the first step, is just to kind of hop in and see what the app is. Most people, again, because of our namesake, think that it's just gamification. So, hop into a demo and let us show you everything that we do.
Awesome. And Brad?
Yeah, very similar. I mean, you can go to Instagram. My handle is the Brand Mortensen. There's another Brad Mortensen that's my exact same age.
You're
right down the street.
The Brad Mortensen.
We got married the same day, believe it or not.
No way.
I have my real estate license. It's wild. Both have 4 kids. His
Shout
wife
out to
delivered my
Cheyenne,
last
too.
kid. Yeah. So, anyways, we probably have followers of each other's that are just like, he's got 12,000 followers. I've got like 1,000 or 2,000. So he's crushing me. So, anyways, that's my handle. And then it's just repcard.com. Go there and schedule a call, or you can download the app and jump into our free account and just see what it's all about. So yeah, that's it.
Hey, Josh, anything else?
Good stuff. That's it. Thanks, guys. Keen to. You're both at SolarCon physically there and not hiding in the corner.
Yeah, we've got a. We'll have.
I see you in the corner, Brad. I'm coming up.
Grab him out of there.
We'll pull him out.
Yeah.
It's for everybody watching too.
Uh-oh, this is gonna be bad.
Okay, we're gonna crush him.
This
awesome.
isn't awesome.
I wanted to also say thanks, Josh and Joe. I think you provide so much value to our industry, and appreciate the opportunity. Grateful to be here, and yeah, excited to see you guys there as well.
You're the man, Jess and Brad. Appreciate you guys.
See you,
It's been
boys.
fun. Later.
Thanks, Brad.
Peace. Have a good one.